Hello everyone, watch this review here with a look at the Superposers Knuckles, of course from the popular Sonic franchise, which is billed as being a fully articulated figure. Articulate, unlike the people who decided to name this Superposers line. I mean, come on, really? Yes, it's posable, but I don't think Knuckles is a poser. He's the real deal. Now, this figure line is put out by JazWares, who currently controls the Sonic license and has actually done a bit more recent stuff since then. But managed to snag this one pretty cheaply at Marshall's, so decided to pick it up. Hold on a second and I'll get out of the box. Now, to start things off, I kind of had two real issues with their smaller Sonic figures, particularly on the 3-inch line. The first of which was that the joints just looked horrendous because, you know, they're just so glaringly obvious in addition to really sticking out. Thankfully, on this larger figure, that's not so much an issue. However, the second problem I had with it, which was joint strength, unfortunately remains an issue. Yes, this figure is superposable in the sense that he can get a certain number of poses, but given that he can't hold them, yeah, kind of undermines that. JazWares, you posers. Which is actually kind of also the opposite problem, where with the smaller ones it felt like they'd snap. These, the joints are stronger, you don't really feel like they are as likely to bend or snap, but at the same time, they just don't do the job right, which is rather disappointing. Now, I didn't touch upon this earlier, but take a look at this packaging. This is the back card for the figure. I mean, really? First off, we have no toy info, like they don't have images of the other figures in the line. You just get an illustration of the three characters, no read-up, and then right here at the bottom, you have this really cheesy company info thing, which if you look, is just a sticker applied to the bottom of the packaging. I wonder if it means that they must have moved offices or something, but I don't know, it's just so unbelievably cheap. Sort of the hallmark of the company, though. At any rate, the reason that I picked this up, well, besides being a Knuckles fan, was, you know, first off, I felt that they did capture the likeness fairly well here. You know, it definitely looks quite a bit like the character. But the bigger attraction for me, at any rate, was just the articulation here on the hands. Where, you know, you have the articulate finger joint here, an articulate wrist, in addition to a point of rotation, which I thought was just really cool that, you know, that there was a Knuckles with the ability to really use his knuckles. Of course, it is quite the shame that, you know, a lot of the poses you aren't going to be able to really manage and keep in place. Though I expect if you want to pose them against a wall or something, you'll probably use something to keep him in place anyway, like for the climbing positions. Now, unfortunately, his dreadlocks don't have any sort of articulation or anything. I thought that would have been a really neat touch if they could, like, bend back or something, but they don't. They're a soft rubbery plastic, so I guess if you really want to stretch it, you can get them to go in some directions, but probably not the best of choices. The paint app, you know, it's passable. You'll notice that there's some fading on the cheeks here. That's really going to be depending on which one you pick up. It's all the colors throughout, though. Now you'll notice that they opted to give him this half smirk here, which is actually sort of an interesting touch, because if you pose the figure this way, you don't see any mouth. This way, you see his mouth. Mouth? No mouth. Mouth. No mouth. But yeah, you know, just gives you some kind of neat display options. I thought it was kind of cool at any rate. Now, despite the articulation being a little on the stupid size, or side, the figure does have okay balance. which is somewhat surprising again. But he has really wide shoes here, and for whatever reason, you will be able to get him to actually stand up in quite a few poses. Although, just nothing really too extreme depending on how it's done. Quick run through of articulation, which he does have a fair deal of. First off, we have this knuckle joint. Hey, a knuckle joint for Knuckles. Then we have one here at the elbow for forward back. Not a hell of a lot forward though. Point of rotation at the forearm slash glove. Actually, I've always wondered if that's supposed to be a glove or if those are his hands. Nah, they gotta be gloves. Single joint here at the elbow. Again, doesn't really stick. About the only joint that really seems to stay in this figure is the knuckle here, and then, the forearms. Shoulder joint's on a ball joint, but it's heavily impeded by the hair. The head has some motion, I think, but it's hard to tell because his arms get in the way. I guess he sort of has an action feature if you look at it like that. Then we have a point here at the waist, a point at the tail, which you hardly ever notice on the character. Then we have ball joints. It's really kind of hokey line ball joints at the hip here. So you also get the rotation, single joint here at the knee. Then you have rotation here at the shoe, as well as this really weird forward back motion, which is kind of cool at the same time. And I don't know, all in all, somewhat disappointing figure, but still a pretty good likeness. Personally, I've always been a Knuckles fan, much more so than a Sonic fan, particularly because he represented a, I guess, sort of more novel version of gameplay. And the fact that you could actually go back and replay some of the other Sonic games as Knuckles was definitely a very neat touch, but he had the ability to hover as well as to climb up walls, which made gameplay considerably easier. But without those abilities, you basically just have Sonic, whose only real thing is the power to run really quickly, which, doesn't make for the most exciting gameplay, personally. I, of course, do have a few Knuckles items at this point, but I believe that this sort of does kind of stand out in some ways. Yeah, it's really wishy-washy language, even if I can only really count on him to get a good sort of standing forward pose going on. Sure, he'll sort of stand in like running things and stuff, but the fact that you can't really move his arms sort of reduces the appeal to that. Although this figure is kind of disappointing, I don't really regret picking him up, given that I am a fan in general. And even if you don't move him around, you still have the likeness, which is pretty solid. And it's definitely a bit better than some of the more recent Sonic stuff they've released, where they arbitrarily toss like information on the side of a character's shoe, which, who does that? But yeah, this has been a look at the Superposers Knuckles. Pretty good sized figure. He's a little over 6 inches tall. But yeah, until next time, folks. Okay, given that his knee joint have kind of sort of started to go, I'm not even gonna say that I don't sort of regret this purchase, because it does definitely have quite a number of problems, and one of my favorite poses for the character is the arms crossed position, which he really, really can't do.